Now, if you have no questions, then we are going to move on to the second situation. If you look at the second situation, this one, fictitious intention. Well, you may wonder, well, what is this different from the one which we just talked a while ago? Because a while ago we talked about, the sale contract between A and B, where A did not have the intention. So the intention seemed to be fake or fictitious. Well, now when we talk about this one, okay, the second situation, what is this different from the one which we talked about, a while ago? A while ago, we talked about the situation between A and B. If we go back to, let's say, diagram, okay, A did not have the real intention, okay, he pretended to make a contract, but B might not know A's intention, okay. But in the second situation, the situation which we to call, the fictitious intention, this is where what? This is where the two parties, they just enter into some conspiracy. If I try to just begin with this diagram, I think that is going to help you very much. Let's have a look at, we have A and B. In this case, the case of a fictitious intention, we are dealing with the situation where A and B enters into some conspiracy or some connivance. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Let's say that A, he borrowed money from C. A has borrowed money from C. Okay, so in this case, A is the what? The debtor. C is the creditor. Okay, as you are well aware, the creditor may just demand the debtor to perform the obligation, right? In this case, A, the borrower, has the obligation to do what? To repay, to make repayment to B, right? Sorry, C. A has the obligation to make repayment to C, the lender. If A, the debtor, does not repay, okay, does not make repayment to C, then C can just enforce this debt. Now, C can sue A. If A does not have money, okay, but he has other property, let's say he has a car here. If he has a car, he has no money, no cash, no money at the bank, but he has this car. Then in this case, C can just enforce the debts out of this car, which belong to A. So A knows that, if the car still belongs to him, then C can just enforce the debt out of his car, right? So he pretends to sell this car to B. And in this case, B knew this. B just trying to help A, A pretend to sell this car to B for what? When he pretends to sell the car to B, he just trying to deceive C that, well, now the car does not belong to me. The car belongs to B, so you, C, cannot enforce the debt out of this car anymore because now the car belongs to somebody else, in this case to B, right? But in fact, the car still belongs to whom? The car still belongs to A because in fact, A does not have any intention to sell this car to B at all. He just pretends to sell the car to B in order to deceive C that the car now belongs to B, right? You can see that in this case, the intention as expressed or as declared by A is not real. When it's not real, we call this one, the intention is what? Is fictitious. The word fictitious is what? The word fictitious means what? Means fake, right? So A has a fictitious intention, right, in this case. So we are dealing with the situation like this. But you can see that both A and B, they enter into conspiracy. Okay, we have, some connivance between A and B. A connive with B, okay, in pretending to sell his car to B. Okay, both A and B know this very well, right? So there is no need to protect B at all. In this case, both A and B know that, this is the fake intention. Right. Now, what is the legal consequence flowing from this case? Again, we are dealing with what? With the conflict between what? Between the inward intention and the outward intention. Which one prevails? The inward one or outward one? Inward one is what he has in his mind. What A has in his mind is what? Is not selling. He pretends to sell. What he express or what he declares to be is that he want to sell. So in this case, when we have the conflict between inward intention and the outward intention like this, which one prevail? And the question is which one prevail? The inward one or the outward one? A while ago we talked about the case of the hidden intention, right? As you can see just a while ago from my explanation a while ago, right? In the case of the hidden intention, then the law adhere to which intention? The outward one, right? That's because what? The law will have to protect the other party, right? Who may not know anything about what is in their mind. But in this case, when A and B enters into sort of the conspiracy like this, there is no reason to protect B because B knew from the beginning that A did not have the intention to sell this car at all. So when there is no real intention like this, then there is no need to protect the other party because the other party knew what was in A's mind from the beginning in this case, right? Then no need to protect any parties. Then the law say that in this case the juristic act between A and B is what? It's just void. What is the law? Where is the law embodied? The rule of law here embodied in section 155 of the CCC, 155 of the Civil and Commercial Code. Okay, according to 155, okay, if you look at the wording here, I try to put the important things in red ink for you. A declaration of an intention made with the connivance, see the keyword in this one, made with the connivance of the other party, which is fictitious, is void. Again, okay. So connivance here what? Connivance here says mean that both A and B they enter into conspiracy. B try to help A, in making this pretense. So there is no need to protect anybody here. That's why the law say that in this case the juristic act between A and B is simply what? Void. Okay. Right. So this is what Thai law. What is in Thai law? So the consequence of this situation, okay, if we go back to the diagram here, the legal consequence of this is that the sale between A and B is void. So we have to treat that there is no sale between A and B. So when there is no sale between A and B, then the car belongs to whom? This car belongs to whom? Then the car remains A's car, not B car's, right? When the car remains A's car, not B's car, that means that C, who is the creditor, can just enforce the debt out of this car, okay? Right. So in the real world, when we witness this kind of fictitious intention like this, right? Now, what remains to be said is this one. Okay. If you go on to look at the second part of the same section, okay, section 155, you can see that section 155 goes on to say this. See, but this invalidity cannot be set up against third persons injured by the fictitious intention, by the fictitious declaration of an intention and acting in good faith. What does it mean? Okay, in this case, if I try to put it in a simplified way, okay, we look at this one. We have this diagram. Just now we have seen that the sale between A and B is what? When A pretends to sell this car to B, in order to deceive C that the car belongs now to B, right? In this case, both A and B enter into conspiracy. Okay, so the consequence is that the contract between A and B is void according to section 155, correct? But what happens if, let's say that A has delivered the car to B, the car now is with B. and B does sell this car to D, in this case, you can see that there is one more person involved, D. Just now, if we don't have D a while ago, okay, we have just A and B, and we have seen that the contract between A and B is void simply because both A and B entered into conspiracy, both A and B enter into connivance, so there is no need to uphold, the outward intention, right? But now, we have another one involved, D. And when B has sold the car to D, D may not know anything about D may not know anything about what is happening between A and B. So is there any need to protect D then? If B has later sold the car to D, who knows nothing about what has been happening between A and B then? And in this case, then there may be the need to protect D. That is why the law say that, well, if D appears like this, okay, if we have D involved and D is injured by the transaction between A and B, and D is honest. When you say honest, the law use the word acts in good faith. D has acted in good faith. That means that D did not know anything about what was happening, okay, what has been happening between A and B. Then the law will have to protect D by saying that, well, even though the juristic act between A and B is void, this cannot be set up against D. So if B sells this car to D, who is honest, he acted in good faith in this case, then the sale between B and D will be upheld, even though the transaction between A and B is void. Okay, so if we go back to look at what the law says here in the second part of section 155, the law says what? But this invalidity cannot be set up against that person's injured by the fictitious intention, okay, and acting in good faith. So if you go back to what the law say, then okay, you look at this diagram, okay, in order to and link this the provision of law in section 155 to this diagram, then you will have a better understanding. Okay, again, see, A has pretended to sell the car to B in order to deceive C that the car now belongs to B. So in this case, the juristic act, i.e. the sale between A and B, is what? Void, according to section 155. But after this, B, who has the car in possession, has sold the car to D, and D, of course, D paid the price, right? Because when B sells this car to D, D will have to pay the price to B. So when D has to pay the price to D, so D is injured because he has paid the price, or he has to pay the price, so he is injured by this. And D acted in good faith because he doesn't know anything about what is happening between A and B. In this case, the invalidity of the sale between A and B cannot be set up against D. That means that the contract of sale between B and D is valid. It is not, invalid. Even though the contract, okay, before the contract before another contract between B and D, I mean the contract between A and B, okay, had happened before, had been formed before the contract between B and D, right? So even though the contract between A and B is void, it does not have any effect on the contract between B and D. See? But you have to be mindful that in order to protect D, we have to be satisfied that first, D is injured by the declaration of intention, okay? And secondly, D has acted in good faith. If D knew that, well, in fact, A pretended to sell the car to B, in that case, if D knew, then D did not act in good faith, so he does not have any protection by law. So these two elements are important in order for D to be afforded protection by law. right? Now, right. Well, we have to just we have to note one thing. Okay, remember, in order for D in this, if we are back to this diagram, okay, in order for D in this case to be protected by law, D must have been what? First, injured, right? Secondly, D must have acted in good faith, right? Now about injury suffered by D. How much injury is that? What is the extent of injury? Let's suppose that if D is very trivially injured, if the injury is very trivial, will the law protect D? Okay. If D is very, very trivially injured, like this, will the law protect D as well? I'll give you an example now. Back to this situation, okay. A pretended to sell the car to B in order to deceive C that the car now belonged to B, but in fact, he did not have intention to sell the car to B. He just did so to deceive C, who is his creditor. Okay, so the juristic between A and B is void according to section 155, correct? And then B just has given the car to D. Okay, B has given the car to D, but the thing is that after D received the car from B, D spent, maybe this car is worth 1 million baht. This car is worth 1 million baht. Okay, 1 million baht. But after B gave this car to D, D just spent about just 5,000 baht to do what? They spent just 5,000 baht for the replacement of the brake pads. Maybe the brake pads, the worn out. Okay, so the D just spent 5,000 baht for the replacement of the brake pads. He just spent 5,000 baht, but he received the car was what? 1 million baht. In this case, if we ask question, is D injured? Yes, because he spent 5,000 baht. But the proportion of his injury is very small, right? In this case, can we still say that D is injured? Well, some say no, some say yes. Right? Some say, well, in this case, the reason why the law protects D is because D is injured. If we come back to the elements, the two elements, injury and honesty. Okay, D must be injured. The law doesn't say how much injury. So it is a question of interpretation of law, okay? So some academics believe that if D is very trivially injured like this, let's say he just spent 5,000 baht when he received the car was 1 million baht, so the injury is too slight, it's too trivial, then there is no reason to protect D in this case. But others believe that, well, the law doesn't say at all about the extent of the injury. So how much injury, whatever extent of injury suffered by D, then the law protects D nonetheless. So in this case, even though D spent just 5,000 baht for the replacement of these brake pads, the law still protects D. Okay, so it's now up to you to give opinions. You may agree with the view number 1, or you may agree with the view number 2. Okay. I leave it to you to think about it. Okay, there is no decision of the Supreme Court on this case, but I think that many academics believe that when the law does not specifically specify the extent of the injury, then that means that D in this case will always be protected. Okay, even though he suffers very, very trivial injury. Okay, in this case, in paying just 5,000 baht, when he has received a car which is worth 1 million baht. Okay, now, okay, we have talk about two situations, right? Remember, we now talk about what? We are now talking about the causes of invalidity, okay, on the ground of the impropriety or vitiation of will, and we talk about the situations where the will of the party may not be genuine or may not be free, okay, and we have talked about, the situation which is known as the hidden intention and the situation which is known as the fictitious intention, okay.